Today you see a pair of pants. I've also hacked them into a pair of lined shorts. So that's something cool. Pull up, woven, easy pocket. Nothing you see here today will stress you out, I promise. Hi sewing friends, I'm Karina from liftingpinsandneedles.com. Welcome to this channel that is all about sewing, limitless sewing, and I have a pair of pants to share. I absolutely love sewing pants, trousers, however you want to call them. I think it's a good challenge, and these today you see are not so challenging. They're pretty easy fitting, easy sewing with amazing results, and they have things that we all like. What I'm talking about is the Gigi pants, and this is semi-new from Sinclair Patterns. The release sale is over, but don't worry, I have something for you so you can still get them at an amazing price, but we'll talk about that in a second. These Gigi pants are straight leg pants that are pull up. They have a really nice curved waistband on the front, so it fits amazingly well on the front. There are two little pleats on the side, very small. They're not going to be pleats that add volume to your midsection, nothing like that. In fact, I think it's very nice. The back is a straight waistband with a 2-inch elastic inside, so they are pull up, flat front, elasticated back like we like them. If you like pockets, there are inseam pockets. I would generally not sew inseam pockets, but I'm going to sew these because they are caught on top of the waistline. So these are anchored pockets. They're not going to be flapping around your legs and all of that uncomfortable business. Nothing like that. The back is super simple. There are no pockets there, but you know we can add these on. So for one of them that I'm doing in a print, I'm not going to bother. I'm going to leave it like it is. But with the one I'm doing in a solid color, I'm going to add some patch pockets there because why not? The legs are pretty straight and there's two lengths there on the pattern pieces, one ankle length and one full length. I'm doing the full length. The release week of the Gigi pants is over, but I have a special code for you that will give you a whopping discount. LPN Gigi, LPN for lifting pins needles Gigi. I'll put it on the screen here and it's valid through the 16th of August. That's Sunday night. So if you want to grab these awesome pair of pants for a whopping 38%, I think, it's a great discount. You can use my code at checkout. I'll leave you my affiliate link at the top of the comment section, pinned, very easy to find right there on the top. If you click on that link, it'll take you directly to the website, and if you end up purchasing, I do receive a small commission from Sana at Sinclair Patterns. It's one of the ways I make an income creating really helpful sewing content here on YouTube that you can enjoy without any cost. Remember to use the code LPNGG for a whopping 38% off. If you check out my website, there's a top section called Patterns on Sale. I update that almost daily, and so any pattern that I've made and I have content about with any brand that I'm an affiliate to, you will always find patterns on sale there. Sinclair Patterns has 2 or 3 patterns on sale every week. So you'll see a beautiful dress there called Mirabelle and a beautiful top called Alva. Check them out. They're 31% off. The Alva top, you'll see it in one of the styling sections today. You need light to medium weight woven fabrics. I would not bother sewing these in a knit fabric. I think you just go through extra trouble, and there are many other patterns for knit fabrics out there. I would just keep this woven. It's very classic in your favorite woven fabrics. Now, because it's a straight leg, a little bit wider at the bottom, I think that drape is required or desired. It's always up to you, but you don't have to do it in something drapey. So if you want to keep it nice and structured and easy to work with, go with 100% linen. That would be perfect. Linen rayon blend, linen cotton blend. A chambray would be okay. These structured fabrics are just going to look far away from the body. They're just going to look more structured. For one of my versions, the shorts, I'm going to go rogue a little bit and use a cotton lawn, which is way too light and actually even sheer. But I've been eyeing this fabric for years. I just had 1 meter left. I knew that with 1 meter I could sew a pair of shorts. So it was always in my plan to make a pair of Gigi shorts as a hack. I'm going to line them. So that's one fabric choice for me. The other fabric choice for my long pair, my regular pair of pants, is a Tencel twill. I think that is such a nice fabric. You could also use a rayon twill or a Tencel, but those will be lighter and much flowier. So I like the Tencel twill because it's got that beautiful drape, but it's also nice and bottom weight, not transparent. I think it's just the perfect fabric for pants, especially these style of pants. Just perfect. So hunt for that. I've got some in my collection, lots of colors because I love it and I found a place to buy it online here in Brazil. So when I found it, I stocked up on colors and now I've chosen my favorite color, red. For notions, you don't need much at all. I'm using some fusible stay tape to stabilize the pockets and part of the waistband. You need fusible interfacing for the front waistband. That's it. No zippers, no buttons, nothing like that. You just need your 2-inch elastic that goes at the back of the waistband. If you don't have 2-inch elastic, you can do two channels and thread 1/2 inch elastic through it as well as another alternative that sort of looks the same. Sizing from 0 to 30 US. Now, this is where I'm saying that the fitting process is usually easier and very smooth because you have height files, and height files do make a difference with pants. It's just so helpful. So you have petite, regular, and tall. You know, if you're 5 foot, it's different than if you're 5'9". Your rise is going to be different just because of the length of you, your anatomy, your hips, you know. So it's sort of accounted in the drafting like that. And so for me, 5'8", I mean, I'm not the tallest woman you see around, but over the average, usually, that with pant patterns that don't have height files, I usually need to add a lot of rise. I need to add a lot of length to the legs. And in this case, I sort of don't need to do that. The inseam length is perfect. The rise, I'm still going to check it, but it's not going to be way off. So I think in that sense, it's really helpful to have a pattern with height files like this because it just makes the process so much smoother. The ease at the waist is adjustable, of course, because of the elastic. It's going to be 0, but without the elastic, it would go past over your hips. So if you're more pear-shaped and you have a size waist that's smaller, 2 sizes smaller than your hips, I wouldn't size down. I would just maybe do 1 size less, but just make sure that you can shimmy yourself up through the hips and then just regulate it with the elastic on the top. Around the hip area, the full hip, you're going to have about 3.5 inches of positive ease, which is the perfect amount of ease for this style. I would not be sizing up or sizing down. Another nice thing to know is that these are meant to have a bit of a longer rise. They're meant to hit below the crotch level of your body, about 3/8. And that's got to do with the style, the amount of ease around the hips, and the pleats. If you ever go to a shop or you make a mistake and make yourself some pleated pants and they end up tight, it does not look good because the pleats end up splitting open. It's just not a good look. So when you have pleats and a looser style, the crotch is always going to be a little bit lower. So that's something good to know and something I have in mind when I'm going to measure the rise of these. I've chosen the size 12, which fits my measurements perfectly at the moment. And I'm going to do some quick measurements on the pattern. Let me show you that. This is the front. I have drawn the seam allowance on the top, which is 5/8, down the crotch here, down the inseam, and then I can go ahead and measure the front rise. I've also got my front waistband and I've drawn the seam allowance there. So if I place this waistband on top here, each line on top of each line as it's going to be sewn, I can see what the length of this rise is. It's supposed to be a little bit lower than a really fitted pair of pants because there are pleats here and there's a little bit more ease. So I don't want this front crotch to match my body. I want it to be a little bit longer. Now here on the top, I'm also going to take away the 5/8 of an inch because there's a seam there. So I'm not going to start measuring from the top. And I just measure along the seam line. And what I get over here is 13.25. That's a bit long for me. I would like mine to be 1/2 inch shorter. Yeah, 1/2 inch shorter is going to be okay for me. This is a toe file. Even though this is a toe file and it doesn't match my height, you know, you can still customize. The back waistband is folded in half like this. It's a rectangle at the back because it has elastic. I've also drawn my seam allowance here, and because on this area there's a fold and no seam, I can measure from the top. So I'm just going to put this on the top here, right where the seam's going to be, and I can measure down. Now I have updated my measurements, so my rise is not the same as it used to be. It's a little bit shorter. So I'm getting 18 inches here. My rise at the back at this point in time is 17. I would like it to be a little bit longer than 17, obviously, but I don't want it to be 18 either. So I'm going to go middle point, and I want 1/2 an inch less as well. So because I'm doing the same adjustment to the front and the back, which is not always the case, it makes it super easy to do the fitting change here. I've drawn my own shorten and lengthen line right here. It's on the top third of the crotch approximately.
And then up there, I've drawn 1/2 inch with a red line. So they're separated now. And now I can just overlap the whole thing from side to side by 1/2 inch. And that's my whole adjustment. And because it's such a small adjustment, it doesn't alter the shape of the crotch or the sides or anything. On the back, I've just done the same, cut it, overlapped it by 1/2 inch, and we'll call it a day with this fitting adjustment. Of course, I'm going to test this with a quick non-wearable test garment, and then I'll cut my fabric.
After doing that, I decided to make shorts, 7 inches. That's how I cut my test garment. Sewed up a quick non-wearable test. Took me a couple minutes to do, just to confirm that I'm correct, because I don't want to mess up my Tencel twill. Let's see how my quick non-wearable test came out. Never regret doing it because it's so helpful.
Check out these cute pair of shorts. Definitely solidifies my intent to make a pair of shorts as well. 7-inch inseam is perfect. I just need to add the hem allowance now to the pattern. And this size 12, straight size 12, minus 1/2 inch on the rise in the front and the back is perfect. If I would have left it, I think they would be way too high for me. I think this is perfect. I just sewed on the elastic on top of the waistband here. I did it very quickly just to check the fit. The curved waistband here fits beautifully, and these little pleats look super nice. I am going to have 1 inseam pocket in my final version, and the fit is just perfect. All I really needed was that rise adjustment, but I did want to confirm that before cutting into my fabric. So I'm set to go, and I couldn't be happier with this fit. For my test garment, I wanted to test it as shorts because it's easier. So I cut a 7-inch inseam just to see if I liked it, and I like that. I didn't true the hem for that. Now these are not shorts originally, so I want to make shorts apart from the pants. I have to fix the hem if I want to make the shorts, because at this stage the leg is still going in a little bit, so it's not completely straight right here. So you can't just cut it and hem it, because if you do that, the bottom of this area is shorter than where you're going to have the fold, and then your hem's going to end up puckered. So what I've done so it's easier to see is I've just added my hem allowance, which is 1 inch here. This is my 7-inch inseam, and then this blue is my hem allowance. I've taped that there, and now I'm going to fold it back, and then I'm going to cut it right here following the same angle that we have right there on the inseam area and on the side seam area. And now the hem of these shorts is going to work. You can see it goes out a little bit like that. When you hem it, it's going to turn out super nice and smooth. You can see the slant right here. So the hem needs to match that same shape. So now I'm sweet to do my shorts. I know I like the length because that's my test. And so now the hem is going to work properly as well.
One thing you didn't see there, but with this test garment, I'm also going to play with my patch pocket that I have. Just grab any patch pocket from any pad that you've already made and you like. That's what I do. And I'll just play with it on my muslin to see where I want it to be. And then I don't have to be guessing when I'm actually going to sew the pants. It's so much easier. So the fitting process is always the same for me. Don't forget to add on your waistband, draw in your seam allowances, measure yourself. I've actually been stuck in my head that my back rise is 18 inches because it's been like that for a pretty long time. But actually, no, it's 17 now. So I've got to keep those measurements updated. My front rise, 12 inches, that hasn't changed much. So taking in my current measurements, I did my adjustments, and now I'm happy to cut into my gorgeous, gorgeous red Tencel twill. I'm going to share some sewing with you. It's very easy. You see there's nothing here that you probably haven't done. And yeah, I'm going to add in the lining bit because a lot of you ask how to line, and I'm just going to show you that you just cut the same thing and add it on at the waists. I am going to show you my shorts version just because it's going to be easier to film. It's smaller pieces and everything, but if you want it long, the only difference is that the seams are longer, but the sewing is going to be the same. It's very easy. So let's see. The front waistband of the Gigi is curved, slightly curved. And if you are working with regular fabric, you would just need to interface one layer, the one that's going to be on the outer side. The inner layer would not be. But because I'm making these out of a cotton lawn and it's super lightweight and flimsy,
I've just decided to interface both layers. That's just to give more structure to the waistband over here. But again, if I was doing a Tencel twill or a linen or something, I would just interface one layer. The other thing is I don't have my front waistband on the fold. There's a little mark to put on the fold. I just extended it and now I can just cut it without putting it on the fold. Block fusing. I've got a piece slightly larger. It's already interfaced and that gives me an exact piece that doesn't deform, shrink, change out of shape. I'm going to do something with this waistband because my fabric is very lightweight and flimsy and I don't want my waistband to end up stretching out. It is slightly curved. This is a front waistband. So I'm choosing one of the layers to put some stabilizer. This is fusible stay tape. And I'm going to put it away from the edge so that I'm sure to catch it with the 5/8 of an inseam allowance we're going to have later. And it's just something extra that I'm doing to keep my waist lasting. Remember, you can sort of cheat the fabric type because there's ways that you can manipulate the fabric to achieve what you want anyway. I decided to show you the pattern pieces of my Gigi but hacked into shorts. The sewing is going to be exactly the same. The only difference is a shorter inseam and a shorter side seam. All the rest is going to be the same. So this is the front leg. This is the back leg. That is a section involved with the inseam pocket. And so I have stabilized that with fusible stay tape. You can also cut just a strip of interfacing and fuse that area. So I've got that here on the hip area right there. Now, I'm just going to do one pocket because I only had enough fabric to cut 2 pocket bags. I've decided to leave a pocket on my right hip because I'm right-handed. It just makes more sense. So that's my one pocket, 2 layers there. I want to do them with the same fabric. I try to do that as much as possible because there's always a chance you can see something contrasting in there. So it's never my choice to do contrasting inseam pockets. Back waistband is a rectangle and it's not interfaced, and that's because it's going to have elastic inside. Front waistband, I've interfaced both layers just because my fabric is very lightweight. So I've decided to just make it a little more stable that way. Now, this is a fabric that could be transparent. It's quite thin. It's got a white background. So I wouldn't just make the shorts and wear them with my undies. I'm sure you would see them. So I'm going to do an extra step at the end, which is line the shorts. I've used the same pattern pieces. I've used a rayon that matches my skin tone closely. I cut it 1 inch shorter. So this is the back and this is the front here. That's all I need for the lining. I'm going to construct these separately and then just attach them at the waist. And I'm going to leave the seams on their own dangling separately on the inside. That's much more comfortable, much more functional. I'm not into lining, I'm just lining. So that's going to be something that comes at the end that doesn't really affect the feet or the construction. It's just attaching it at the waist basically. Okay, here we have the front leg and I'm going to do 2 steps in one go basically. Here's the crotch. This is the waist area. I want to stay stitch the waist. It is slightly curved. I don't want it to stretch out before the waistband goes on. But I'm also going to do the pleats. So you can see the 2 little red marks here, there and there. I'm just very delicately going to put the lines on top of each other and poke a pin through one line and it comes out the other side where the line is, and that is the pleat. So the volume of the pleat is going to go towards the center front right here. This is looking at this from the wrong side. From the wrong side, the ugly part of the fabric, the volume of the pleat is going towards the crotch area, the center front. Pleat and stay stitching in 1 step. I'm sewing close to the edge. It's just a regular stitch length. The back waistband area, I see that it's pretty straight, so I'm not concerned about this one, that it's got a curve, that it's going to stretch out, so I'm going to skip the stay stitching on the back waist. Also, the back waistband is straight, so when there's straight shapes involved, the risk of it deforming is less. So I'm going to leave the back as is. These are my 2 pocket bags. This is going to be the hip area. I haven't serged this edge because I'm going to end up serging it together with the side seams later. So all I've serged is this curve right here. It's just so much easier to get it done now rather than do it later. This is one front leg. This is going to be on my right leg, on my right hip. So that's where I decided to do the one pocket that I'm going to do. This leg is right sides up, and I'm going to get a pocket bag that matches that side and put it right sides together right here. You can tell the right side is much more vibrant than this side. It looks all gray. So these match up here, And then on the pocket bag, you're going to have two lines. I have them in red, here and there. And we're only going to sew from the line to the line and reinforce. It will be just a straight line reinforced on each end at 5/8 of an inch. It's a little bit of a different technique for the inseam pocket, but just as valid and also super easy to sew. I think it's even easier to sew than the more traditional one that you see more. Okay, there you can see the stitch from the red line to this red line right there, and it's all reinforced. Now we snip into that seam from the edge right here. Very close to it, but not through it, of course. When we flip it, we're going to have this edge turn out like that, the top edge together, and we're going to have this little rectangle shape. Now that I've flipped it and we have the little rectangle there, this is the inside of the pocket. I don't want it to be seen, so I'm going to stay stitch it. Pushing that seam allowance right under here, I'm going to stay stitch close to the edge there to keep this in place. This is optional, but I think it's a good idea. Okay, here we have this part of the pocket ready. I gave it a good press, it's understitched. And now I'm going to take this other pocket bag and place it right sides together with this other pocket bag. So when we look down, we have the wrong side of the shorts, the wrong side of the pocket. So everything you see here is wrong sides up, but the pockets are right sides together. So this is going to complete that area right there. And we need to align all this curved section, the two of them, the two layers, and we're going to sew that. After sewing them together, we're going to baste it right here, baste it right here. And this pocket is going to be anchored here on the waist. So it's not going to be flopping about. Baste it along the top as well. From this side, that's how it's going to look. This pocket bag is going to be behind this rectangle. And then when we bring the back leg on top, we're going to sew right there. And that's going to be the pocket entrance. It's a pretty hidden pocket entrance, really. Okay, now that the pocket bag is sewn together, I'm going to baste around the hip area, just close to the edge to hold it in place. Now here on the top is also the hip area, but up higher. And then I'm going to pivot and continue basting the pocket onto the waistline because it's going to be anchored on there. Okay, so here we have our front leg with the pocket in there. That's how you get in. And basically, you can pretend that pocket isn't even there anymore. It's all done. What we need to do now is just take the back leg and sew our side seam like normal, making sure you're not going to catch this. You're just going to catch the seam allowance right there, that single layer of pocket right there. And then that's it. That's how the pocket is finished. For the Gigi, if you look at the instructions, it has you construct the back and the front separately because you will attach the back waistband to the back and the front waistband to the back. And then the final thing is the side seams and the inseams. I'm going to construct my waistband differently. It's going to be continuous, so I can actually leave it towards the very end. It's just different steps. The result and the look is going to be the same. The fit, there's so many ways to sew things. I'm going to sew the legs separately. Side seam, side seam. On this right leg, I'm going to have that pocket. When I sew the side seam, that pocket is going to be closed. Inseams, I'm going to serge them, finish each leg, and then I'm going to put one leg inside the other and do the crotch. That is the most classic way to sew pants, and if it's possible, I like that method. Now, what I have here is the lining layer, and I'm going to do the same thing. So basically, I'm going to do 4 basic seams right here. All these seams are 5/8 of an inch. They're pretty simple. After sewing these side seams and inseams, I'm going to serge the edges. And while I'm serging, I'm going to be trimming away seam allowance because I don't really need the 5/8 to be there. I don't need to let out seams. I'm not doing a fitting process. I have already done that with my test garment. So all I have to do is sew and serge basically, and that's the most enjoyable part. I've sewn all the legs. I've even done the hems because why not? No one says you have to do the hem at the end, especially when you know your desired finished length and everything's ready to go. So I've got this leg wrong sides out. You can see the hem there. This leg is right sides out. You can see the nice finished seams right there. And I'm just going to put one inside the other, matching up the crotch seams. You match up the inseams basically, and then you get a U type of shape. The lining, I've done the same. This is the one I've already got pinned. So it's basically that U shape that we're going to sew with both. And then the lining goes inside the pants, wrong sides together. Let's just get this U shape sewn, which is the crotch. It's all in one go, sewn 5/8 of an inch and then serged, trimming away seam allowance, the same as I did with the other main seams. Okay, check this out. The lining is inside the shorts. I've made sure that all the seams are touching. So this is wrong sides together here, so that when you wear your pants, you're gonna have the comfy, nice little seams right there, the finished part, the smooth part. I've got the main side seam pointed to the back and the lining side seam pointed to the front. So you meet up the seams and you have bulk there and bulk there on both sides, and that makes it smoother. Out the back is 1-to-1. That's going to fit perfectly. This is the front. This is where we have the pleat, and I don't want to do the pleat on the lining. A better idea than just trying to ease it in, which would turn out messier, is to just do a row of gathering stitches here and just gather it first. You get one little gather here and there, and then you're just going to sew it together, and that's it. It's still going to have the same volume inside with the lining. It's just not going to have the pleat. Okay, so that is how the front lining is looking, with a slight gathering on the inside. As I said, I'm going to sew this with the feed dogs touching that. I'm going to have the main shorts on the top. Any slight gathering that there's going to be, the feed dogs are going to help ease it in. So all I'm going to do now is baste this on the edge all together, and that is all for the lining. It's as easy as that. At the bottom, this is just going to be shorter, so you won't see the lining, but each seam is going to move independently, and that's much more comfortable. And that's it. I'm not going to have transparent shorts anymore. I have a whole video showing you 5 ways to sew flat front elasticated back techniques, because they can be done in many, many ways. So if you look at that one, I'm going to use method number 3. The only difference is that that method number 3 has a separate front waistband, but it's a rectangle. The difference with this one is that it's not a rectangle in the front, it's curved. The back is a rectangle. But let's just do a quick refresher here. I'm going to sew these two together. These are the 2 front waistbands. Remember, I have both interfaced just because my fabric is way too light. We're going to quickly sew this with 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. After sewing that, we're going to snip. We're going to trim it smaller because you don't need all that in there. Now I'm going to understitch. I'm not going to do it from the very edge. I'm going to start a good 3/4 of an inch away so that this area is free to sew on the back waistband. Because both of mine are interfaced, it doesn't really matter. But if you have one that's interfaced and one that isn't, push the seam allowance towards the one that isn't interfaced, and then we understitch. Okay, so this will be the front waistband. It's curved, but let's extend it. And now we bring our back waistband, which is a rectangle, and we put it on top right here, and then we sew these ends. So this is just one of the sides, there's 2. Here's a look at the waistband. Only in my second pair, I think you can see it better because you can see the contrast. With this one, I have the waistband that you're going to see on the outside interfaced. This is a front waistband, and the inner waistband is not interfaced. There is a seam right there that united it to the back waistband. I've trimmed the seam allowance smaller, pressed it open right there, and these seams of the waistband match the side seams. Here are the pleats of the pants right here. Everything matches up 1-to-1. The back is straight. That matches 1-to-1 as well. And this inner layer here, I have serged it because what I'm going to do later is stitch in the ditch. Please see the video on my Please see method number 3 on this specific video about flat front, elasticated back. I've got 5 methods there for you to see. Method number 3 is the way I'm sewing this. The only difference there is that this front waistband is a rectangle. This one is composed of 2 pieces and it's curved. But the essence is the same. There's a seam here at the side seam. And what I'm going to do after sewing it at 5/8 is flip this, press the seam allowance up towards the waistband. And then this over here is going to cover that seam and I'm going to stitch in the ditch right there. I'm going to leave a little gap here on each of these side seams so I can thread my elastic through only on the back. And then on this, I'm going to stitch in the ditch as well to catch the elastic on the back, but it's going to come forward towards the front by about 3/8 of an inch. That is basically the method, the summary of what it's going to be like.
This is the pair of shorts you saw in the tutorial. They are lined, the fabric is super lightweight, and they turned out really well. If I hadn't have lined them, you would see everything. They're just so thin and transparent, but it worked out really good. This is the flat front right there and the elasticated back waistband. So nice. There's no pockets, no need for pockets here. I left it as per the original because, you know, it's a print. Now let me show you. The inside is beige. That is a rayon that I used for lining, and it's just caught on the waist as you saw, and then the waistband went on top. The way the waistband is sewn is exactly like you saw in the sewing segment. And remember, I have a whole video showing you how to sew flat front elasticated back waistbands 5 ways. Third method in that video is the one that I used for this pattern. If you want to follow the tutorial, method number 1 in that video shows you how, where you do the back first, the front second, including the waistbands, and then you finish with the side seams. I just prefer sewing waistbands on the round. You know, if you look at these, they fit the same, they look the same, they're just sewn in a little bit of a different step. I like this method of the pocket. No one's ever going to see it. It's really hidden. It's not going to gape. Remember, pockets like this only gape if you don't have enough ease around the hips. If you're measuring your hips not at the fullest part, maybe a little bit higher, or you're sizing down, that's when inseam pockets like this can start opening up and gaping. But this is less risk as well because it's also anchored on the waist. So it's a really stable pocket on the inside. 7-inch inseam, trued hems. I'm super happy. Let's see this one on.
I really wanted to make a pair of Gigi shorts, and these are in cotton lawn. It's a very lightweight fabric. I cut them at a 7-inch inseam. This is a size 12 with the toe file. The only adjustment I made was to make the rise 1/2 inch shorter on the front and the back. They're fully lined. I have the inseam pocket on the right hip only. There you can see the elasticated back, and the front is flat. It's a curved waistband. You can see on the inside I have some beige colored rayon as a second layer. It's only caught up along the waist. Otherwise, I just made 2 pairs of shorts basically. And I have this really cute blouse. Those are little pleats there. And the gorgeous little white top with the flounce that you see there is a neat top also from Sinclair Patterns called Estelle. It's gorgeous. A couple of weeks ago, I made this peplum top with the same cotton lawn. I had 2 cuts of 1 meter each, so 1 meter was enough for these shorts, and I think it looks really cute. I always knew I was gonna make either a skirt or some pair of shorts to go with this top. Not the same brand, but it doesn't matter. I think they go really beautifully. And I can't wait to wear my really summery fresh little outfit out. It's a really gorgeous and fresh set. Don't worry if your fabric is super light and transparent like this one, because you can always line it and it turns out amazing. So the experience of making these line shorts was awesome.
These are my gorgeous pair of red Tencel twill pants. I've made red pants over the years. Some of them no longer serve me. I have 1 pair that's completely seam ripped, so I can make it all over again. Super happy to have one that fits me for right now, that fits amazingly well. And it was so easy to make. The stitch in the ditch here on the waist, you can see with this solid pair, is very invisible. Super discreet. I love those little pleats. Elastic is top stitched on the back. I did 2 rows there because I just wanted to. And these patch pockets, I made these the other day for another pair of pants. go ahead and grab some patch pockets from anything that you like. You know, there's no rule that you just can't put a patch pocket when you want to. It's something that doesn't change the fit or anything. And I like patch pockets when I have a solid pair of pants. I feel like there's something missing when there's nothing there. So that's something extra that I added on that wasn't part of the pattern. I don't have the pockets on this one. I wanted to do at least one pocket so you could see how to sew it, because that was important for me, and I did one pocket on the shorts on the right side. I also didn't have more fabric to do the other side, but for this one, you know, I'm not interested. You know, I wear my handbags. I have an amazing little collection, and I'm not going to skip a chance to not wear a handbag because I have a pocket. I find handbags safer and just more practical. So don't tend to do the inseam pockets, and I didn't do it here. The difference with this one is that I have a hand hem just because the fabric looks nicer that way, and it's gorgeous. So let's see this one styled a few ways. One of the blouses you'll see, the alva, is also on sale through this week, 31% off. So check that one out. It's the black and white one.
Here is my full-length pair of Gigi pants, this time in a Tencel twill. The gorgeous blouse that you see there is called Daisy, and it's also from Sinclair Patterns. It looks much better tucked in, so let's do that. That's how I would actually wear it, and then you can actually see the pants. So super nice. I didn't have to make any changes to the length of the legs. It's perfect with the toe file, just a small adjustment making the rise shorter in the front and the back by 1/2 inch. I don't have the inseam pockets on this one, and I do have extra back patch pockets that I just added on just because it's a solid red color. I felt that the patch pockets wanted to be there. Something extra, not part of the pattern. Check out the curved waistband on the front. It's flat, the little pleats, the elasticated section in the back, which makes them pull up, but you see it doesn't add much bulk at all. I think the ease around the hips is perfect. Everywhere, it's just, these are just the perfect pair of pants. Here is a more sporty look. I've got the alva blouse sort of just loose. I could wear it like that. I've got matching sneakers in red. Of course, this is going to look nicer tucked in. This is also a blouse that's on sale at Sinclair Patterns, a dolman style with a dart, cup sizes, and I have a little ruffle there on the end of the dolman sleeves. It's super adorable. Red is one of my favorite colors, and I actually didn't have any red pants that fit me correctly right now, so I'm really happy I have this pair that is easy to wear. It was easy to fit. The experience was great all the way around. Check out the little ruffle there on the end of the dolman sleeve of the alva. I wanted to show that. It's so cute. A great pair of pants if you've never made any. The height files are super helpful to get a good fit without much fuss. I'm really happy with both my Gigis.
I hope you give these a go. I would make these in all colors. I really love the experience. It was very painless. The sewing, the fitting, everything was so easy. And these are so wearable. They're so classic, and I just really enjoyed sewing them. Nothing difficult over here. Very nice. Remember, you can get the Gigi pants 38% off through the 16th of August. That's next Sunday. Remember to use my special code so you can get this discount. That is just for viewers of this channel. That's all from me. See you soon with more sewing on this channel. Bye.